911. What's the address of your emergency?
Waukesha County, Lenny. I'm transferring over a caller on Big Bend at the dead end just south of Rivera. And he came upon a 12-year-old female. She appears to be stabbed.
She appears to be what?
Stabbed.
Stabbed?
Correct.
Okay.
Sir, you still there?
Yes. Hi, sir. So are you with this 12-year-old female?
Yeah, she says she's having trouble breathing. She said she was stabbed multiple times.
Stabbed multiple times?
Yeah.
It was a sunny Saturday morning on May 31st, 2014, in Waukesha, Wisconsin, just outside Milwaukee. The town seemed peaceful, but a dark and strange story was starting to unfold. That day, the Waukesha Police Dispatch got a strange call.
Okay, sir, are you with her right now?
Yes.
Is she awake?
She's awake.
Is she breathing?
Yeah, she's breathing. She said she can take shallow breaths. She's alert.
Okay, stay with her. We're sending the police department. Don't hang up, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Hold on just a minute, sir. We're sending officers.
Okay.
Is there any assailant around?
I didn't even look. I don't see anybody.
Is there any bleeding going on?
Her clothing has got blood on it.
Where are the wounds? Do you see where the wounds are?
No, I don't know if I should be rolling her over and checking or not.
Okay, just stay with her and just let me know if she's conscious or alert or stops breathing or anything. Hold on, I'm going to talk to the ambulance. Police are also en route.
I'm bothering you at all? You want shade? Okay. Who did that to you? Or don't you want to talk? If it's better not to talk, then don't talk. With your energy.
Two 12-year-old girls, Anissa Weier and Morgan Geyser, had made a chilling plan. They lured their friend, Payton Leutner, into the woods of a nearby park. The three girls walked together, chatting and playing, but Payton had no idea what was about to happen. Suddenly, Anissa and Morgan turned on Payton. They stabbed her 19 times, leaving her badly hurt. The motivation behind this horrific act was even more shocking. The girls wanted to appease someone. They believed that by killing their friend, they could prove their loyalty to this made-up figure and become his servants.
They had run away and the police hadn't found them yet. And we just knew that Payton told us Morgan stabbed her and the police hadn't been able to find the girls.
And in fact, police believe those girls were walking.
Yeah.
They were going to find a mansion in the woods.
Oh, the mansion, yeah, the mansion in the woods. They were going to the Nicolay Forest because they believed that there was a mansion there that Slenderman lived in.
Payton was in terrible pain, but managed to crawl out of the woods. A cyclist spotted her and called for help. Soon, authorities found Anissa and Morgan and took them into custody. When asked why they did it, they talked about Slenderman, saying that they thought he would hurt their families if they didn't follow through with their plan. The community was in shock, trying to understand how these young girls got caught up in such a dark fantasy. Now, regarding Slenderman, it isn't real, but you wouldn't know that by how much he's influenced people. Slenderman started an online forum called Something Awful back in 2009. It was for a Photoshop contest where people created spooky, paranormal images. Someone made a creepy picture of this tall, thin figure with no face, and that's how Slenderman was born. People on the internet loved this scary character. They began crafting narratives about him and creating additional images. Slenderman became famous online. He is super tall and skinny, wears a black suit and a white shirt, and sometimes has long tentacles coming from his back. In these stories, Slenderman hides in forests and does terrible things to people. He makes them forget things, cough a lot, and act very paranoid. Now, let's get back to our main story. In the fall of 2013, three girls named Anissa Weier, Morgan Geyser, and Payton Leutner started going to Horning Middle School. Anissa and Morgan didn't have many friends and felt lonely. They met a friend in Payton who made them feel like they were included. Around this time, Anissa discovered a website called Creepypasta. It was full of scary stories and fake articles about monsters. One day, Anissa came across stories about Slenderman. She got really interested in him and started believing he was real. She told Morgan all about Slender Man, and Morgan became obsessed too. Morgan even thought she could talk to Slender Man with her mind.
2 12-year-old girls stabbing their friend nearly to death is unimaginable anytime, but especially for a safe community like the city of Waukesha.
The more Anissa and Morgan read about Slender Man, the more they believed in him. They thought he lived in a mansion in the forest and that he could hurt their families if they didn't listen to him. This made them very scared and anxious. They felt they needed to do something to prove themselves to Slender Man. With time, Anissa and Morgan's belief in Slender Man grew stronger and stronger. They spent hours reading and talking about him, convincing each other that he was real. As their belief deepened, they began to plan something terrible. They thought they had to prove their loyalty to Slender Man by killing their friend Payton. The thought of not doing it made them more scared of what Slender Man might do to them and their families.
I didn't want to do this.
Why did you do it then?
Because I was afraid of what would happen if I didn't.
It's heartbreaking to witness the manipulation of these young minds by an online myth. They were just 12 years old, and their imaginations took them to dark places. Anissa and Morgan were no longer thinking like regular kids. They lived in fear of a made-up monster. By the time they successfully lured Payton into the woods, they had already made up their minds. They believed they had no choice. This belief led to the tragic events of that Saturday morning. They thought they were following Slender Man's orders, but in reality, they were lost in a dangerous delusion. So after that, in late December 2013 or early January of the following year, Morgan suggested the idea of killing Payton Leutner to prove their loyalty to Slender Man. Morgan said Anissa was the one who really made the plan. She made it seem like we had to do it, Morgan said. The two girls kept this dark secret for months.
We're looking at him going, this is the most unbelievable story I've ever heard.
Who's ever heard of 2 12-year-old girls planning for 6 months to kill one of their best friends?
Well, you have no idea how difficult it was not to tell anyone. We would all be together. It was a flawless plan, actually.
Fast forward to May 30th, 2014. It was Morgan's 12th birthday. The girls celebrated by going to a local roller skating rink. They had fun and laughed like any other kids their age. Later that night, they went back to Morgan's house for a sleepover. They played games, dressed up in costumes, and enjoyed a memorable evening. The next morning, they ate breakfast together, still acting like everything was normal. Morgan asked her mom, Angie, if they could go play outside. Angie agreed, thinking the girls just wanted to enjoy the lovely day. As they walked outside, Morgan secretly showed Anissa a knife she had taken from the kitchen. They were planning and were ready to act. On May 31st, 2014, the three girls headed to a wooded area called David's Park. They decided to play a game of hide and seek. While Payton, who also went by the nickname Bella, was hiding, Morgan and Anissa found her. They pinned her down and started stabbing her with a 5-inch knife.
The knife came directly down at this point where this large branch was coming off of this major artery and cut through the tissue overlying it so that the vessels were totally exposed by this injury.
The knife cut through the tissue, but not the artery itself.
Exactly. The knife stopped at the wall of the artery.
And had it not?
Had it not, she would have had a major heart attack from the amount of bleeding and probably died within a minute or two.
It was a brutal and horrifying attack. They stabbed her 19 times in her arms, legs, and torso. 2 of the wounds were very serious. One cut into her diaphragm, liver, and stomach. Another stab missed a major artery by less than a millimeter. Bella was in a lot of pain, but she fought hard to stay alive.
I asked her who did this, and she told me her friend Morgan. I then asked her, where did this happen? And she told me that it happened in the woods.
She was the first one to reveal that it was Morgan, her best friend, who was behind this.
After the attack, Anissa and Morgan told Bella to lie still. They said they would go get help, but they never did. They left her alone in the woods.
And they told her they were going to go get her help, but Anissa flat out said, no, we weren't getting her help. We wanted her to die.
Because my body was in shock. So they told me to lay down, you'll lose blood slower, like we're gonna go get help.
Did she try to get up? Yeah, she tried to get up. She said that she couldn't see, she couldn't walk, and that she couldn't breathe. Payton was saying this? Yes.
Bella was in terrible pain and extremely scared. She used all her strength to drag herself to a nearby road. A cyclist saw her and quickly called for help. Emergency services arrived and rushed Bella to the hospital.
911. What's the address of your emergency?
Waukesha County, Lenny. I'm transferring over a caller on Big Bend at the dead end just south of Rivera. And he came upon a 12-year-old female. She appears to be stabbed.
She appears to be what?
Stabbed.
Stabbed?
Correct.
Okay.
Are you still there?
Yes.
Hi, sir. So are you with this 12-year-old female?
Yeah, she says she's having trouble breathing. She said she was stabbed multiple times.
Stabbed multiple times?
Yeah.
Doctors worked for 6 hours in surgery to save Bella's life. They repaired the serious injuries to her organs and tissues. It was a long and difficult operation, but the medical team did everything they could to help her.
They just wanted to go on a walk, and I didn't think much of it. It's just a walk. It's in Waukesha. Like, what bad stuff happens in Waukesha, Wisconsin?
They were just 12 years old, but they had convinced themselves that they needed to kill their friend to please a fictional character. The internet myth had twisted their minds, leading to this tragic event. The police caught Anissa Weier and Morgan Geyser about 5 hours after the attack. They were near Steinhoffel's furniture store on Interstate 94, which was about 4.9 miles from where they had hurt Payton. The police found the knife they had used in a bag they carried. The girls said they were on their way to meet Slender Man at his home, called Slender Mansion, which they believed was in the Nicollet National Park, 200 miles away.
A message that the sheriff's department had located the girls on the side of I-94. They were sitting on the side of the freeway.
By the time we found them, they had walked about 5 hours and made it to the north end of our city.
During the police questioning, Morgan showed no feelings about what she had done, while Anissa felt guilty for stabbing Payton. Both of them said they had to do it to make Slender Man happy. They really believed in this fictional character, and they thought they needed to prove themselves to him. Morgan's mental state was very troubled. During the police investigation and the psychiatric evaluations before the trial, Morgan talked about having visions and hearing voices all her life. She said she started seeing these things when she was very young. She often saw ghosts and colors melting down walls. She had imaginary friends named Maggie and Sev. There was also a figure she referred to as It, who looked like smoke and ink. Morgan said she would see It standing behind her in mirrors or moving around corners. After Morgan was arrested, her behavior became even more strange. Her mom, Angie Geyser, said Morgan became floridly psychotic. This means she had a lot of serious mental health issues. The correctional officers noticed that Morgan often talked to herself and acted like a cat. She even kept ants as pets. Morgan also stated that she saw unicorns and thought she was still talking to Slender Man and other fictional characters, such as Severus Snape from the Harry Potter series. Her hallucinations and beliefs in these imaginary figures drove her to do something terrible. The police and doctors who talked to her saw how these real visions were to her. She wasn't just pretending. She truly believed in the things she saw and heard.
She testified at the time of the stabbing, Geyser suffered from unspecified schizophrenia.
What was the mental condition that you diagnosed her as suffering from at that time? As I recall, the mental condition was unspecified schizophrenia spectrum and other psychotic disorder.
Anissa, on the other hand, seemed to understand the reality of their actions more clearly. She felt awful about what they did to Payton, but still thought they had to do it. The influence of Slender Man on these two young girls shows the power of stories and myths, especially when someone is already struggling with their mental health. Morgan's case highlights the importance of mental health care and understanding. Her hallucinations and delusions needed attention and treatment long before the tragic events took place. It's a reminder that when kids show signs of mental health issues, they need help right away. Ignoring these signs can lead to dangerous and tragic outcomes. After that, the legal journey for Morgan Geyser and Anissa Weier began. The court charged Morgan with attempted first-degree homicide, which is a very serious crime, a Class A felony. Anissa faced charges for attempted second-degree homicide, a Class B felony. Because of how serious their actions were, the court decided to try both girls as adults, not as juveniles. In 2017, Anissa decided to plead guilty to being part of the attempted second-degree homicide. But when the jury looked at her case, they decided she was not guilty by mental disease or defect. This means that they believed her mental state made her unable to understand or control what she was doing. Morgan took a different path. She agreed to a plea deal, which meant she wouldn't have to go through a trial if she pleaded guilty and allowed psychiatrists to evaluate her. The doctors needed to find out how long she should stay in a psychiatric hospital. She pleaded guilty as part of this deal. Later, the court-appointed psychiatrists diagnosed her with schizophrenia, and the court found her not guilty because of mental disease or defect.
My initial impressions included that Ms. Geyser was not well psychiatrically, that she had experienced trauma certainly in the commission of the offenses, and that she also presented as quite odd during the 2.5-hour interview I had with her. So her mannerisms were odd, her expressed emotions were inconsistent, sort of incongruous to what had occurred. At one point, she burst into tears when the threat of her Harry Potter friends not being present to her coming back was broached.
Anissa's sentence was 25 years to life. This means she had to spend at least 3 years in a state forensic psychiatric institute where she would get treatment. After that, she would stay under supervision until she turned 37. This arrangement guarantees that she receives the necessary assistance and also monitors her activities within the community. Morgan received the maximum sentence of 40 years to life. Like Anissa, she has to spend at least 3 years in confinement and get treatment at a state forensic psychiatric institute. Her treatment will continue until her symptoms completely go away or until she turns 53, whichever happens first. If she ever gets released, she will still be under community supervision. She will also have regular checkups to see if she needs to go back to the institute or get more treatment. Their actions were very serious, but their mental health issues played a big role in how the court handled their cases. The court wanted to make sure they both got the treatment they needed while also keeping the community safe. The journey through the legal system was tough for everyone involved. The court had to strike a balance between punishment and treatment, understanding that these young girls were deeply affected by mental illness and the influence of a fictional character. The sentences reflect this balance, aiming to provide long-term care and supervision. This case also brought attention to the importance of mental health awareness. It showed how mental illness can drive people to do things they wouldn't normally do. Morgan's diagnosis of schizophrenia explained a lot about her behavior and beliefs. Anissa's mental state, influenced by fear and delusion, also played a key role. Their story is a reminder of the complex relationship between mental health and the justice system. It's important to understand and address mental health issues early to prevent tragedies like this. In the end, this tale of Morgan and Anissa shows how critical it is to take mental health seriously. It teaches us about the power of belief, the impact of mental illness, and the role of the justice system in dealing with such complicated cases. On March 10, 2021, Anissa, who is now 19 years old, wrote a letter to the court. In the letter, she said she was very sorry and deeply regretted the pain and fear she had caused. She wasn't just sorry to Payton Leutner, but to the whole community. Anissa wrote, "I hate what I did on May 31st, 2014, but after many hours of therapy, I don't hate myself anymore for doing it."
What's your opinion specifically about Morgan and her petition for conditional release?
My opinion is that this is an appropriate time for her to be conditionally released.
In your report, you said that it's an ideal time for her to be released. Why is it an ideal time right now?
Because Morgan has improved quite dramatically, needs things that the institution can no longer offer. I think she's benefited a great deal by being at Winnebago in many different ways, but I think she's reached the end of what Winnebago is able to help her with. There's no suggestion that she is dangerous at this time, and the kinds of things that Morgan needs, in my view, help with socialization, help with education, help with becoming independent, are things that Winnebago can no longer provide in an effective way.
On July 1st, 2021, Judge Michael Boren of Waukesha County decided Anissa could leave the Winnebago Mental Health Institution. He gave state officials 60 days to come up with a plan for her conditional release. Anissa would have case managers from the Wisconsin Department of Health Services watching her progress until she turned 37, the length of her sentence. By September 13, 2021, Anissa was released with many rules she had to follow. She had to wear a GPS monitor all the time and needed permission before leaving Waukesha County. She couldn't use the internet freely, and she wasn't allowed to use social media at all. Anissa had to take court-ordered psychiatric medication and go to counseling sessions regularly, always with a caseworker. She had to live with her father while being watched by the court. On September 11, 2023, the court decided she no longer needed the GPS monitor, but all the other rules stayed. Meanwhile, Morgan Geyser had her own legal battles. In 2020, her lawyer, Matthew Penix, asked for Morgan to be tried again as a juvenile. He argued that she should have been charged with attempted second-degree intentional homicide instead of first-degree. He also said that Morgan talked to the police before they read her Miranda rights. This means she might not have known she could stay silent or have a lawyer with her. The appeals court didn't agree and turned down this request. In early 2021, the Wisconsin Supreme Court also refused to hear the case. Morgan made another attempt to obtain her release in January 2024. She had asked for this before in 2022, but took back her request 2 months later. In April 2024, a judge heard her plea and ruled that her release was not possible. Anissa's release came with many conditions to ensure she stays on the right path and gets the help she needs. She has shown remorse and has worked hard in therapy to understand and deal with her actions. The court's decision to release her under strict supervision reflects a balance between giving her a chance to live outside an institution and making sure the community stays safe. Morgan's situation is different. Her struggles with mental illness and the seriousness of her actions means the court takes a very careful approach to her case. Her repeated attempts for release show a desire to move forward, but the court needs to be sure she is ready and that it's safe for her and others. Both girls have grown up a lot since that day in 2014. Their stories are filled with regret, therapy, and the hope for a better future. The legal system continues to watch over them, making decisions based on their progress and community safety. So, to wrap up this tragic and complex case, we see how the actions of two young girls deeply influenced by a fictional character and their mental health struggles led to a horrifying event. Anissa Weier and Morgan Geyser's journey through the legal system highlights the importance of understanding and addressing mental health issues early on. Their stories serve as a reminder of the power of myths and the internet, and the need for vigilance and support for our youth. Anissa's release with strict conditions shows a path toward rehabilitation and hope, while Morgan's continued confinement underscores the serious nature of her condition and the ongoing need for careful monitoring. Both girls have grown and face the consequences of their actions, but the community's safety and their mental health remain priorities. This case teaches us about the delicate balance between justice, mental health care, and community safety. It's a sobering tale, but also one filled with lessons for all of us. If you found this story compelling and want to hear more like it, please subscribe to our channel. Hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Your support helps us bring you more stories that matter. Thank you for watching.